All right. I think I figured it out. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, I think we're back up. Give people like a minute or so to
Come back.
come back. Yeah.
I don't see anything yet.
Yeah, it should pop up in a second.
Yep, now it is.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
All right, then I'll just go back to the app.
All right, cool.
You let me know when you see it. All right, are we back on it?
Yes. We are back. Perfect.
Okay, so you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, good. So we left off with angles, angles of technology. Kidding. So I said earlier that we're going to look at 1 or 2 points that we've already seen. So I think on this one, you're hitting basically all the check marks when you're playing this point. So let me go back to the when you're starting your serve on this one here. So we saw that point before, but here's where you're doing a really good job hitting exactly that target area. And that's what produces a ball that cuts the singles line before it cuts the baseline. So that's exactly when that is your cue. If you see that ball here, even before you're seeing him react, you know that. I mean, you're at the level where you're seeing that already. That's when you're moving in and you're doing this really well. And he's missing it actually outright. That actually wasn't the point that we looked at earlier. But so let's go back to it one more time. You are using your forehand here, and that, again, is a really good position you're in, right? You already have an angle to hit that angle. So that's what you want to look at instead of trying to hit through the court as much, to just open the court. And that is a very uncharacteristic miss, actually, to be perfectly honest, because usually Ben gets that back somehow, and you have to restart the point.
Definitely.
This year's, again, you're opening the court. Good. Little let call there, but still, you're getting the balls that you want. That is when he misses. Even, somebody like Ben then misses. So looking back at this, again, you have the reaction here. That's a little bit of a shorter ball, and that is your ball. And I don't know if you planned that, but that's exactly what you want to look for, to have those shorter balls and pull them out. And to my mind, you could have even sneaked in behind that. Right? When you see him cross that line here. And again, especially off the lefty serve here, I mean, if we're looking at his contact point, there's no way that you're ever going to get a sitter, right? It's so low, but you are getting short balls that sit in our target area that already have an angle, and you can produce an angle instead of going right through the middle. Maybe if you look at that a little bit more, you get those. So on that one, I mean, we hear the reaction. I mean, yes, you should have made that ball. Absolutely, you should have. But again, you're getting the opportunity to come in.
Right.
Because you're moving him. Do you remember where you wanted to place that volley?
It sure looks like I wanted to place it back where he was, but I definitely wanted to go cross court with it.
Okay, good. Because otherwise I would have yelled at you, because that is the toughest ball that you could have chosen. So yeah, just knock it into the open court.
Right.
Again, as coach, I'm going like, okay, this is the opportunities that we want. And if you're making 6 out of 10 of those, all of a sudden you're winning in 2 sets.
Right.
So that is the ball that we looked at earlier a little bit, and you're using your forehand really nicely here to pull him out, and you're getting that ball again. Couldn't care less that you're missing that ball. That's another opportunity there, and you did that really well. And I don't know if you meant to do that. When you have a ball that's, you're coming from behind here and you're not too far out, you have the option to go either way.
Right.
And it's maybe something that you want to start using a little bit, even though it's in the corner that where he is, you're getting the angles a little bit more.
Yeah, I actually started going back a lot more towards that side of the court, which is abnormal for me because he's a lefty, and that was putting it on his backhand side. So it started producing more points, putting it.
Yeah, although the peculiarity with Ben is he switch hands sometimes.
I know.
So that's then even more frustrating because you're not having a clear weakness.
Right.
But I do like the angle approach there. So that's just to throw in, and that's what we were talking earlier. You're starting the point out with having him on the defense. And then that makes it look really easy. But it really starts with the serve, and then you never letting him come back.
Right.
Basically, you keep your finger on the trigger, if you will. And I think the next two are, what I want to do is I want to play a little, what I call it anyway, stop shot. I want to pause the point basically at just when you're about to hit the ball, and then trying to see if there's other options of what you could have done. Of course, in retrospect, we always go like, oh yeah, I could have done this, could have done that.
Right.
But this is something that I used a lot with our women at Vanderbilt. And it just kind of shows you sometimes the discrepancy of what I see from the outside and what their thought process was during the points. And then kind of starting to see if they can start to see the court a little differently. Right? So that is, I'm giving it away because I moved too far actually. So if we're looking at, I want to create more angles. What do you think? I mean, I kind of gave it away. That ball's actually going more this way.
Right.
But this is, I think, why people want to have their forehands a lot out of this position, right? Because you can create these angles. So you had a ton of forehands, especially in this point, but a lot of them, and they're going a lot of times through the inner third of the court. So to my mind, when you're working on this, being a little bit more process-oriented, to start beating these types of players, that's when you want to invest in your future a little bit and see if you can create these kind of balls. And you can, of course, go inside out on this. That, to my mind, is the time when you can be a little bit more aggressive.
Okay.
All right, so that lands right there. That's the next. Now we have, that's exactly where I wanted to pause it. So what do you see, if you don't mind, kind of describing what areas do you see where you could potentially create that angle?
I would definitely guess that's cross court at this point to the right. Ideally, if I'm just looking at just this still picture, I would put it cross court and push the net, since I'm about to take a step into the court here.
Yeah, so where I drew it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So that's what I would say too. I think you do have the inside out, but you would have to recover to over here. And since we know that he's really good at making you work, I think that's a really good choice. Right? So that could have been a little bit more aggressive with an angle, not meaning that you're hitting it harder, but more rotation and just getting a little bit more angle on the ball.
Right. Same thing here.
Yep, I agree. And that is exactly what I was seeing with Ben. Then all of a sudden he gets a ball that kind of throws you off, right? You were on the kind of in the driver's seat the entire point, and all of a sudden you're the one who has to run.
Right. Get a lot of these balls, huh?
Yeah. So what are you seeing here?
That ball's up real high, so I feel like I could probably go either way with it, and I'm also a little bit further back, but cross court still feels like the best option.
I agree. I think that's not necessarily the most aggressive court position, like you mentioned. You don't have your feet inside the court, but you can hit the ever-loving baloney with heavy topspin, right, to get him out of the court there. And I think that's what you're trying.
Yeah, I was trying to.
Yeah.
I was trying to be a little more generous with my shots and keep them in the court.
Yeah. So for everybody who says like, oh yeah, I mean, it's easy to out hit somebody. if you play in Atlanta, July, and you have to, you know that this is the type of point you have to play, then yeah, this is not an easy match by no means.
It's not.
Yeah. So because he just is so good consistently. So let me stop it here really quickly for Ben, if Ben is still on the call.
Okay.
So this would be an opportunity, same that we talked about for you, to start the point out with a little bit more of an angle, especially with his chips. I think this is where Ben is really happy to just go to about here. This is, to me, an opportunity for him to step in just a little bit more and try to find an angle here with that chip, because it's so difficult to get up under that ball and then do anything with it. So he wants to have people hit up to him a little bit more. And there were plenty, if you go back to this match, Ben, at some point, or any other match that you play, you have plenty of these balls that you let him kind of almost come down again. And then they're kind of undifferentiated, I almost want to call them. So this is like a mean little chip here, or could even be here in this area. If you have players that have very aggressive grips, very extreme grips, that is not something that anybody likes. So that's the tip right there for Ben to start also using the court and spreading the court a little bit more and having people play from here instead of just back here, because nobody likes to move up when it's not on their terms. And this is a very similar point. Using your forehand, you have to work really hard. What do you see on this one?
I'm a little bit in the court, but I'm definitely not positioned to move forward. I'm kind of on the back foot.
I agree.
Got my heels on the ground, so I don't know where this ball is going.
I mean, what if we're looking at the angle, I think this would be, or even a little bit more here.
Definitely.
So when I'm drawing this, also what you're seeing is this here, the first one was actually a little too deep to my mind. So let's do that again, if I can show that better. If you can get the ball a little, wow, my drawing skills are interesting. Not even like going past the service line, right? But with just very heavy topspin, and I'll talk about how to work on those a little bit more. That would be a good opportunity, I think, to again do that. And now it's, I think, more to Ben's liking.
Definitely.
The point. Right, and then at some point, one just gets frustrated or one gets tired, and then you're a little too close, and then you're
that ball got real close to me,
making that error. And that's, again, when we're talking about, could somebody say, oh, he's a pusher? Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's really, really smart tennis, because he plays exactly what he knows is going to hurt people.
Right.
So I think those were all the points that I had. So let me go back to Discord now. There
we go.
Am I back?
Yep, you're back.
Yay, I'm back, and I didn't ruin the call. This is
Your audio went out there for a second. You might have your finger on it. I'm not sure.
So now it should be better.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Didn't want to have you people look down my nose all the time, so I think that's a better look. So what do you feel, or what are the thoughts when you're after we've gone through this?
So I'm trying to recall like my exact thoughts when I was going into the match. So it's obviously like Ben's seen me play before, I've seen him play before, so we both have kind of an inkling about how we want to go about the match. And I know at this point everybody, if they wanted to, can see every piece of Ben's game online at this point, so I have those resources. I've watched all of his matches and stuff, and I was trying not to be too aggressive about watching those and formulating strategies, but more of like take it like I go out on the court and I'm playing him for the first time, so trying to think about how I'm going to handle a player like that. And I wanted to come to net more. That was one of my points, which I did all right, and I didn't do as much as I wanted to, but I think I was more taken aback by how deep and low his balls were. So I really didn't I mean, you can argue that a lot of those floaters towards the baseline, like we were talking about there at the end, that I could have, hit a nice angled shot and really pushed in on, and I should have, but I was so hung up on, like, it's a mental thing, right? Like, I was so hung up on, like, okay, I missed
Yep.
this point, I missed this point. All right, now this point, I'm gonna just get the ball back within 5 feet of the lines. Like, I'm not gonna try to
Yeah.
paste, within a foot of the line and hit a really good shot. I have a quote that I repeat to myself all the time. It's hit a good shot, not a great shot.
Yeah.
So that I don't go for too much, and I try to keep it, within 5 feet of the lines, like I said, and I wasn't attacking enough and keeping Ben within his little safe box back there, which he's happy
Yeah.
to, go back, like you said, go back and forth and put the ball back in the court. So I like the angled, I need to recognize where my feet are in the court more. Instead of thinking about it, I just need to know, like, okay, I'm a couple feet in the court. This is a great shot. I'm towards the line. I've got a really good angle. Let me just go ahead and hit this angle and push the net, because he's not going to like that. So I just need to be more aware of those situations, I think, where my feet are and when to go for stuff like that.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things, and I want to kind of share two ways that you can work on this a little bit more. And I kind of base that on how I train for this, but also what I see mostly of players that are not taking a whole lot of coaching. Because I think most of the players that are really impressed with your channel are also like you're not taking coaching for whatever reason.
Right.
That makes total sense because, we charge a lot, I charge. So that totally makes sense. So what are the things or the ways that you can train this? So I'm at a facility that actually has 4 dedicated ball machine courts. So the one thing that always stuns me is, I think in the 6 years or 5 years that I've been here, is I have not ever seen anybody move the ball machine away from the middle. So what you're doing then, if there's people out there that are listening or watching this, if you do train on the ball machine, I think it's a fantastic tool. However, move it to the side, move it into a corner. So I'm just shamelessly going to self-promote here. I have a couple of videos out, ball machine drills, where getting the balls fed from the corner, because that is where you get these opportunity balls from, most likely.
Right.
Or it's really hard to create angles out of the middle. And I think, yes, did we have a lot of rallies that went through the inner third of the court? But again, those are the balls where you're probably going to be a little happier to just kind of start building the point. But to really take over the momentum of the point is when the balls are already a little bit in the corner, right? When you're starting to move people.
Right.
So that is one thing. Start putting the ball machine into corners. And then you start to also see the court differently. Right. Because you can deliberately place the ball more, shorter, a little bit more with an angle. And then you're starting to see exactly what you're saying, just to build the awareness. The other thing that I see, even with players who are very competitive and they compete in whether it's leagues or, just in open tournaments, they spend an awful lot of time rallying through the middle. And that is another thing. Yes, spend 5 minutes warming up through the middle, but then start playing points cross court, for instance, just going cross court to cross court. Use the alley, right? Because that kind of really is the only way that you can start taking over the point, pushing them out of the court a little bit more. Can I start variations with slices, with more heavy topspin, with shorter, deeper? There's a whole lot of range of games that you can play. One game that we play, or I play with my clients, is when we're playing singles points. I feed the ball in, and I play it to a corner already. Let's say we're playing, first to 11 or whatever it is, just drop feeds. I feed it into the ad side. Their first ball has to go cross court, and then the point is open.
Okay.
So that your decision making starts immediately with a ball where you have different options than from the middle.
Right.
And that's just, I think, a really good way to start your training a little differently, or starting your brain, right? How you see the court, of mixing that up a little bit. And I think the other thing that also really, really helped me was always have visual targets out when I'm hitting.
Right.
Because then you wonder, it's like, oh, wait, I have these cones out there. Why am I not hitting to them? Oh, I'm supposed to hit angles.
Right.
So those games we played as juniors all the time. And that, again, that might be something because I grew up on clay and you have to structure the point differently. Or because it was just more my game. I'm not sure which one.
No, I think that's a really good point. I saw very rarely nowadays, since I've watched so many YouTube videos, do I see a video that really resonates with me where I'm like, oh wow, like that would really help me, you know. And so I saw this video of this guy. He's like a UTR 12 or something. So, you know, obviously a very high level practice. And they structured their practice in a certain way where I was like, okay, I need to find somebody and do this, because if I did this twice a week, I would probably double my skill level in a couple of months, you know, because the way that they were practicing, my dad always gets on to me too. It's funny because like he'll want to go out and hit with me or whatever when he's in town. He's like, you spend 30 minutes hitting down the middle to somebody, or 5-10 minutes in the middle, and when you're warming up, you know, hitting straight to somebody, and then you spend the entire match hitting away from them. It's like, it's the same thing with the volleys, you know. When you're warming up your volleys, you're hitting back to them, and then during the match you have to try to hit away from them, and you're just not used to it. But the guys, they practiced where they would start, you know, obviously with just a normal warm up down the middle, and then they would move to the corners and they would do a forehand to forehand, and then after they had warmed up their forehand to forehand, they would bump it up to like 70-80%, you know, of match level, and they would hit 3 forehands across court, and then it would be one person's job to change the direction of the point. So you'd say like, okay, you're going to be in charge of changing the direction. We go back and forth, and then their job is to angle the ball until they get a nice ball that they are comfortable with switching that, you know, down the line on. Maybe they pulled you a little further off. Now you go down the line, and now you switch, and then you try to end the point from there. And then they do the same thing with backhand to backhand, and then after they had done both of those with both sides, they started some points in the middle where they would start the point, you know, try to go use what they just practiced, cross court down the line, and try to really focus on, you know, like you said, forming your points like that. And I think that would be something that would be like really helpful for me, which is exactly what you're talking about. You know, make sure you have targets and know what you're doing. So
and working on how, you know, getting these opportunities, because few people, I think if you're playing competitive matches, you're just not able to out hit people, right? You're not able to hit through the court as much unless you're playing on grass or you're playing, you know, here in altitude.
Right.
I'm always kind of lamenting a little bit with our juniors because they just don't learn how to structure points, and then they go, or anybody, then they go somewhere where it's, you know, sea level or even on clay, and they're used to hitting winners or forcing errors off of balls that, you know, everybody gets back like nonchalantly, basically, on those slower surfaces. So
exactly. I'm with having like 3 seasons just ending for me, I get guilty of it a lot where I don't have the I still have to do other things in my life other than play tennis, which I know a lot of people don't know. But so I'll have, you know, like I think last week I had like 6 matches or something, which is absolutely ridiculous. And you know, it was ridiculous, and I had to get them all in before my parents got here and all this kind of stuff. And I get guilty of playing matches and not practicing enough. So like, you know, for the past 2-3 months I've been exercising with my knee in all of my free time, and then playing my matches when I can, and then I just don't have the time for the training. So a lot of what you see in my matches, I'll be completely honest, 95% of my skill level comes just from playing matches. I don't have the like repetitions outside of matches, and so you'll see me structure points and do different things all the time in my matches because I'm using it as practice. That is my practice, you know. So like even when I'm warming up with my opponent, I'm like figuring out, okay, I'm not doing this with my forehand, I'm doing this with I'm trying to figure out how to hit my forehands and my backhands while I'm warming up for a match, you know. So like that's kind of where I know. And it does hurt me, you know, not having that. I think that I have a lot of potential if I just got to the grind on the actual practice and repetitions, and so that does hurt me quite a bit.
Most people though err on the side of playing too much practice, right? I mean, they're practicing too much. Although maybe most of the people that subscribe to your channel, maybe they do mostly, you know. But finding the balance is always, difficult.
Right. Yeah, it is. It is for me, especially just because like I feel so much. Well, I don't say I want to say I feel like the pressure or whatever, but like when the camera's on and I'm playing a match, I know exactly how I need to be playing. But like so it's like, okay, well, I can't do this or I can't do this, which I might normally try if I was just practicing, because I really want to try to win this match. Like I'm playing a player
Yeah.
that I really want to beat, and XX whatever.
The bends of the world.
All the bends of the world. I have a guy that's beaten me 5 times. I have never beaten him, and he plays a pretty similar game to Ben. And then I just lost the finals of a Flex League playoff to somebody that plays like Ben, and then I lost to Ben, and it was just like I can't I'm gonna eventually turn the tides on these players eventually. I
With
gotta.
the
Yep, it'll come. It'll come. Just gotta
You'll be
keep it up.
king.
Right. We got a few comments in chat here. I just want to peek at those real quick, see if we have any like questions or something. What matches I've seen, blah blah blah. Oh, Ken, guy that comments on my channel a lot. Hey Ken, glad to see you here. He said, from all the matches I've seen on YouTube with MEP, the most crucial piece to beating is putting away with your overheads and volleys. And like what we were talking about a lot today, a lot with what Micah was really focusing on today, was structuring the points to put yourself in a position where you can do that. So a lot of the comments and stuff on watching MEP, players are constantly saying, oh, all you got to do is come to net. All you got to do is come to net. That's how you beat these players. Well, you've got to be able to do something before you can come to net. So that's what a lot of what we were focusing on today. And I think Micah made a lot of good points with the angles and positioning and knowing your shots and where to hurt your opponent the most.
Yeah, because you can't just randomly run in,
Right.
because Ben is just way too good for that.
Absolutely. And he's got a really good passing shot. He's got a really good volley, a really good lob. So like if you don't put yourself in those positions, you're going to get beat.
And then you feel dumber because they're not necessarily the fastest passing shots, but they're really, well placed. So, yeah.
Right. And then you just yell at yourself because you're like, oh, I'm doing what everybody told me to do. I'm pushing the net, and then you're still getting beat. Well, that would be why. What do you use to measure your spacing with a one-handed backhand? And a forehand, you have your non-hitting hand. Having a hard time with my one-handed backhand with this. What would you say to that?
I'm using my outside leg a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to really get my outside leg behind the ball. If I'm being moved laterally, of course, it's a little more difficult. But if I have more time to step in, then I want my outside leg behind the ball. It's not going to, if the ball were to go through, it's not going to hit my outside leg. There's still going to be some space, but that's a first good indicator. If I can plant my outside leg roughly behind the incoming ball, then I find pretty good contact point that I know it's out to the side a little bit, but not too far, but well in front of my center of gravity.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That was one thing I've struggled with a lot is the planting of that leg, just because that's my bad knee. And so if I don't plant it correct, or I try to bend a little too far with my knee to get low for a ball, my knee doesn't like that. And so that's been a big struggle for me.
Getting old.
Welcome to getting old. Yeah, that's funny because the doctor always told me, he was like, yeah, if you don't get the surgery, you're gonna have 70-year-old knees by the time you're 35 or whatever. And so now we're doing exercises to prevent that from happening.
Yeah.
Then on to the sea. I do understand that with the turn, but what do you use to mit now? Let's see here. What would be the best way to deal with a ball when one is off balance?
Abandon what you had in mind before, and literally go through the inner third of the court with good net clearance and restart the point.
Yeah.
Because that is one thing that, and again, it's at world-class level. I mean, you see somebody, and it's just nuances, right? When somebody is off balance, their nuances, they miss it by that much. And, mere mortals, we hit it in the fence. So that's then when you feel you're off balance, just pull back, abort, mission, and just go inner third, I restart the point.
Right. I think that's key to be able to recognize when you're in a really crappy position, and you're not going to be able to hit a winner from a position, just knowing the best way to reset the point to give yourself a way to get back in it. I think that's super crucial. For sure. Do you have any points for? I know you had some people from your area that were wanting to tune in that might be watching this. Did they have any questions that maybe they would want answered or?
I think they were kind of addressed with. I mean, one comment from like, oh yeah, I know my Ben. You know, somebody who, which is kind of weird because other people say he's the type of Ben. So he always plays extremely long matches. But no, I mean, if there's nothing in the comments, I didn't have anything prior to this.
Okay. Byron's in the chat. Byron's one of Tennis Trolls guys. Me and Byron are going to play a match pretty soon, hopefully. Real fun guy. Looking forward to meeting him. Let's see. One of the questions that I have, I know it's something I struggle with mentally. It'll be very relevant to this video. It's the transition from that good shot that you needed to hit to putting the ball away at net. Even with serve and volley or just when the point's playing, right? The positioning of where I should be split stepping in the court, or where is that point in relation to the service line? Is there like a specific area that you want to try to aim for with your feet in that split step to look for to get ready for the volley to put it away?
Yeah, so, this is where I think also my training kicks in immediately. I was taught that you have to hit your approach. If you hit a winner off it, fantastic. If you get your first volley and you put that away, fantastic. But that's not really what you have to do. You have to put your second volley away.
Right.
So it's literally jab, jab, punch. And I remember one of my coaches always jab, jab, punch. And kind of almost hit your face. Great. So ideally, you want to come inside the service box, about 3/4 from the net to the service line. That's what we call it, the platform. In German, you would call it the platform, where you're kind of moving up to your second ball from. So, but you have to split step. You have to be on the top of your split step when they're making contact. And then it's irrelevant where you are in the court, because I'd rather have you on balance and out of position than off balance and out of position. Okay. So it's a little difficult to do that without really seeing or having a court where I can draw on. But ideally, you want to put yourself in a position with your approach shot, taking the right shot, that you can come in at least inside the service line, and then you're shading over towards the half that you're approaching towards. So you're getting on your bisector of an angle. So my dad always taught me, like, imagine that the ball is attached to a string on your chest, and hit it, and then let the ball pull you in. So if you're attacking to the deuce court, you're shading over slightly to the deuce court. If you're going to the outside, you shade over to the outside. Okay. But my mindset immediately is that I do not have to put my first volley away, which allows me, I think, a little bit more freedom. It takes a little bit of pressure off. If I'm not putting the second volley away, then I'm in trouble. Right. But yeah, give yourself the jab, jab, punch.
I think that's good. I wanted like kind of like a mentality, I guess, to go into something like that with. So that's good. But you said about like 3/4 from the service line to the net, right? So yeah, kind of that sweet spot there where you can get that first. That's where you volley.
Your first volley, because that gives you a pretty good opportunity or chance to actually, not having to lift the ball, because that's the last thing that you want to do. And this is actually one thing that Ben does really well. He gets the ball down to incoming people's feet, to the attacker's feet, and they lift it up to him. And that's why it makes it so difficult to play really good volleys against him.
Right. Yeah. That first volley, that's my biggest weak point there. I think I try to go for maybe a little bit too much on that first volley, and I lose all kinds of points to that area right there. PJ says, must volleys always be done in a continental grip? Ooh. Can you hear me, Micah? Uh-oh. Looks like we're still live. As far as I can tell, we are still live. Micah must be having some technical difficulties. We'll see if we can get her back here ASAP. By the way, Byron, thank you so much. Bending knees is overrated. Absolutely. The older we get, it gets more and more overrated. We'll see if we can get Micah back. Let me shoot her a text real quick. Oh, can you hear me?
Okay, I'm coming back on. Can you see? Oopsies.
Let's see. I think we're back. Yeah. All right, cool. I got you. Let's see here. If I can pull this back up here and here. Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry the volume. That's the second time I've heard that the volume for me is a little bit low. But that's all right. I think we ended at must volleys always be done in a continental grip, and it froze right there. So,
yes,
yeah.
Yes, continental grip, unless you're hitting swinging volleys. And that's a total legitimate weapon these days. Not anything I grew up with, but any regular volley, all continental grip.
Okay, perfect. Alex, your serve's become a real weapon and should give you opportunities for some easy volleys off floating returns. If you knew how many floating returns I saw in a match and didn't punish my opponent with, it would make you sick to your stomach. Which is better, iCoach or Top Spin Pro? I'm not familiar with iCoach, but I've heard of it.
I think that the one Billie Jean King has kind of ricochets around. I mean, it literally does this a little bit more. I have neither, to be perfectly honest. So,
okay, that's fair. I know one of the guys, what's his name, Peter, that runs the other coaching channel out of North Atlanta. He loves the Top Spin Pro, so you can go watch one of his videos on the Top Spin Pro. Maybe that'll help you make your decision on which is better. I'm unfamiliar. All right. Any last questions for Micah or myself? I think that pretty much covers it on my end. I think I learned what I wanted to learn. Any last things for Ben that you want to leave?
I think come in more often, especially when you're chipping those shorter balls in. Just go 1 or 2 steps inside the court and be ready if somebody pops it up. Then you should have a fairly easy volley.
Right.
Famous last words, should have easy volleys. Getting more angles also, especially with that chip off the returns. I think that's going to be a really crucial thing. And the last one is because he lobs really, really well. Come in with your lobs. The second you see somebody either turning and running, that's your cue anyways to come up to the service line, hover around. If you see it's a bad reply, you go up under it, put it away. If it's a good reply, you can still hit an overhead. But at your level already, when somebody's just getting the ball, when they're setting up for an overhead and they get it behind them, and they can't really hit down on the ball anymore, that's a good cue to move up and take it out of the air.
Right.
Because I think he could have gotten you there once or twice.
Definitely. This is definitely good at making the overhead awkward for me.
Yeah, I mean yeah. He is a very good player at making everybody look awkward. And other than that, I think everybody go to my channel. You subscribe would be awesome.
Absolutely. Actually, I was going to say I have that in the description of this video. So if you guys want to go down below, I actually have a link to Micah's channel. And she actually has a website for herself. So if you go to Micah's channel, you'll be able to find her website. She has tons of good videos. We've worked together just a little bit and we got her set up real nicely, and she's been putting up some great content, which I've watched. As you guys probably know, I've watched a ton of YouTube content, coaching, match play, everything, and Micah's videos are much shorter and more to the point and just straight up better than most videos that I watch. So
I'm German. I get to the point.
get
We're
to
blunt.
the point, yeah. But that's
Move.
that is not something. I don't speak non-truths on the channel. You know, I'm gonna tell you exactly what I enjoy, and I wouldn't preach that if I didn't actually enjoy the videos and like them. So, and a huge shout out, you know, obviously for her to come on this channel and share this information with you guys, share it with Ben, share it with everybody. It'll be posted afterwards if you miss some portions of the live stream. The videos will be live on my channel. But yeah, make sure to check her videos out. She's getting close to 1,000 subscribers, so we'll get her there very, very soon. And yeah, any last words that you wanted to leave people with before we go?
Just kind of keep on doing what you're doing. That is what makes me really happy in coaching. Just people that are really passionate about tennis, and they're investing time, money, all this effort, and then just hopefully being able to help along a little bit is really what I enjoy. And thank you for having me, Alex.
Yeah.
Acing. Maybe one of these days, you know, when I feel a little safer traveling, I'll come to Atlanta and we'll do something.
Perfect. Just pick an off-time flight when there's not too many people on the plane, and
yeah,
you'll be a-okay. But yeah, you just let me know, and we'll see you in Atlanta hopefully sooner than later, and another live stream sooner than later as well, I'm sure. So
do it.
All right, Micah. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you soon.
All right, sounds great.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Well, thank you so much for watching, guys. That was a great live stream, other than the fact that we lost power right in the middle of it. So that's something. But I really appreciate you guys coming in and watching. Thank you, Byron, Jerome, Ken, Tennis, Jan, Tony, PJ, Ken. I think that's everybody I can see right there. Thanks so much for watching. Match analysis commentary for MB on 405 level matches would be great. Yeah, we can make that happen. We can make that happen, absolutely. But y'all have a good night. I need to go get some food. I had a match earlier, still haven't eaten, so. But thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you soon.